Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Smart Moves seminar series. We are delighted to provide you with insightful education on relevant topics. Our seminars are complimentary and take place every second Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m., both in person here at Ringhouse and virtually. I'm Angelique Jackson, the Manager of Business Development and Marketing at Charles E. Smith Life Communities. Our organization takes pride in delivering personalized care and experiences tailored to the unique needs of the older adults we serve. At all stages of life, our services include independent living here at Ringhouse, affordable independent living at Revitz House, assisted living and memory care at Landau House and Cohen-Rosen House, post-acute and long-term care at Hebrew Home of Greater Washington. And additionally, we offer primary care, specializing in older adults at Hirsch Health Center. So if you are interested in learning more about our residences and services, please visit our website or give us a call at the Welcome Center to schedule a tour. Our contact information will be shared in the chat for your convenience. A few reminders before we begin today's presentation. We want to hear from you, so please add your questions to the chat, but also make sure that you are muted as a courtesy to our attendees. So while technology can sometimes cause frustration, it plays a vital role in accessing social support, such as staying connected with loved ones, receiving news updates, obtaining health resources, managing banking, utilizing other services like shopping, reading, and entertainment. Today, we are joined by our partner and real estate expert with Capital Senior Solutions, Jan Brito, a certified senior housing professional and downsizing coach, as well as our guest speaker, Joan Green, who is a licensed and certified speech-language pathologist, assistive technology specialist, online tech coach, and founder of both Elder Tech Advisor and Innovative Speech Therapy. Join me in welcoming our guest today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just a brief comment. I am Jan Brito with Capital Senior Solutions. We are proud to be partnering with Charles E. Smith Life Communities to bring you these monthly seminars. While we are residential realtors that can help you with the sale of a home should that need arise, we are dedicated to educating and empowering seniors through education that we offer on many, many topics. We are very proud to be working with Joan today on this presentation. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Joan so we can get started. Thank you to everyone on Zoom and those of you in the room. Put your questions in the chat, those of you on Zoom, and we'll be monitoring the chat throughout. Enjoy.
Great. Well, I'm really happy to be here today talking about using technology to stay connected. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. There is in the chat for anybody that wants to download the handouts. And I also, part of the handout is this flyer. So I'm going to be talking about tech tips for boomers and older adults. I want to thank Capital Senior Solutions and Charles Smith Life Communities for inviting me to come today. So today the title is Staying Connected. So I was asked to talk about using technology to stay connected. So that's the topic for today. And it's a critical topic because we all know that it's just vital, it's essential. The pandemic really showed everybody how important it is for seniors to avoid isolation and to be able to stay in touch with people and to stay engaged in activities. And I think that technology is the answer. Of course, it's best to be in person with people and to be engaged in conversations, playing games, seeing family members. That's what brings everybody joy. But it's not always possible. Do any of these pictures look familiar? this is how we used to stay in touch, right? We used to write letters. We used to call on the phone, maybe go in a phone booth. When was the last time you saw one of those? Or use a dial-up with a cord, and you couldn't really get too much done while you were talking on the phone unless you had a really, really long cord. And now everything is going tech. It's critical, people are shopping with tech. You have to sign up on tech if you want to get a vaccine. It's how people are staying in touch. If you want to be in touch with grandchildren, maybe you have to learn to text them or use FaceTime. It's a whole new world that's not an option anymore, really, if you want to stay engaged, if you can't be with people in person. And I know that it can get really overwhelming and frustrating fast. So I'm going to try today not to overwhelm and frustrate you, but to show you the potential, show you what's possible, so that you can figure out just one small step that you can take to move toward becoming a little more tech savvy. So these are questions commonly asked from seniors. I mean, I used to ask to present to seniors before the pandemic, and a lot of executives would say to me, why do seniors need to use tech? They don't want to use tech. They can't learn to use tech. And I think that's totally wrong. And I think that there's a movement now going on to really provide tech consultants and tech coaches and support wherever seniors are living to help them learn about tech. But I'm frustrated because the process is too slow. So I'll share with you, my mission is really to provide more supports so that seniors can avoid the frustration and get the ongoing help that they need. So these, where should you start? Who can help you? What's available? How do you know if it's a good fit for you? Is it worth it? Will it make my life better? What if I get stuck? If I touch something, will it break? Those are things that you might be feeling. So not moving forward. Just a sec. Oh, there we go. So I'm Joan Green. I'm an online tech coach. Actually, I was only online during the pandemic because my dad is immunosuppressed, and I moved my entire speech therapy practice online, and I found that I could really meet everyone's needs pretty well. On occasion, I will help people in person. But my background is that I'm a speech language pathologist. I got my master's back in the mid-'80s in Chicago at Northwestern. And I've been working with kids and adults who have all kinds of communication and cognitive and literacy problems since then. I have my own practice, Innovative Speech Therapy, in Montgomery County, where I've been going for over 30 years, and I have different speech pathologists helping me. I've written 4 books about assistive technology. I have 4 grown children. I'm a senior care provider, and I'm also an accessibility advocate. So you can tell that I really, to me, this is my passion. It's almost my identity. And I really think that it's critical that we keep moving forward. The new generation of tech is amazing. It's better than ever before. I used to spend $500 on a touch screen when I had an assistive technology center. Now there are touch screens in your phone, on your phone or on your computer if you choose to buy one with it. So what we need to do is figure out what you want to accomplish, but first you have to know what's possible. So that's going to be the thrust of what we talk about. And then you have to think about the person, yourself or the person you're helping. What are their needs? Are they tech savvy, or do they need a lot of support? Do they have visual problems, dexterity problems, word retrieval problems, memory problems, hearing problems? People of all ages can have these challenges, and then technology has a lot of built-in solutions. You don't even have to pay extra anymore. These are my favorite tech tools that I find that I use personally all the time and with many people that I help. So any kind of computer, tablets, phones. I'm a big fan of the Google apps. They're free. I really like my Apple Watch, and I'm a big fan of Amazon's Echo Show. There are many more possibilities. People just often ask what I use the most. So the key is to simplify it, to not get overwhelmed, but to break it down into just one or two things that you want to accomplish and then feel the success. So I've broken it down into 10 tech tips that everybody in the room has, and everybody at home or wherever you're on Zoom, there's a link to download 3 handouts. One is this. And then I've also shared all the slides. One has 6 slides per page and one has 1 slide per page, but there are 80 slides. So this is partly reference for you. I'm not going to cover everything in detail, but unlike most presenters, I probably, I'm writing a book and I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm giving you a lot of information for free because I really, really want you to use this. So the first tip is to demystify the language of tech. And this is key because I don't know if you've ever felt it, but I often will sit down with my parents or with a client and I can figure out things usually really fast. And even if I've never seen the device or I've never encountered that particular screen, and a lot of seniors try to memorize everything, every step, step by step. And that's okay on your particular device with your particular operating system. But if you're working with different devices and different apps and different operating systems, it's much better if you can learn the language, learn the icons, the pictures, so that you can figure it out. So we're going to talk about some of this tech language. And so when you're looking around, if you ever see these 3 dots or the bars, feel free to write in the chat. Well, I do monthly webinars and I'm usually really, really interactive, but I have so much to cover here. I think I'm going to just keep on talking. But think about, do you know what those symbols mean? Okay, those symbols pop up more when you're on smaller devices. So on a computer, you might not see those symbols too much. They mean more. So those are menus that you click on to see lots more things. So if you're used to using something on a computer and you go to a phone and try to use the same app or program, you're going to have to dig deeper to find what you want because there's less screen space. So that's a real key thing to know. Look at these 4 symbols and think to yourself, what do they mean? And you can hold up 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know why that's happening. 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers, depending on how many you recognize. I don't have this. All right, does everybody in the room here, 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers? All right, so let's see if you're right. The first one usually has to do with dictation or speaking, if the microphone is on or off. The second one is for speakers or volume, up and down, or mute or silence. So just have these in your head. If you see a T in a box, that's where if you click on that, you can usually deal with the text, add it or edit text. And then the arrow up and the arrow down in a square or something similar to this, that means that you do something with it. You're either uploading it to the cloud or sharing it with somebody or downloading it onto your device. All right, take a minute and hold up 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers on this one. And we'll see the first one is a printer. If you're trying to figure out how to print something, you look for that symbol. The second one is to copy or duplicate something. The third one is the power symbol. So often somebody on their computer won't know how to turn it on and off. And so often I'm looking for some kind of power display like that. And then brightness is a sun. Usually it looks sort of like a sun, and that's how to make your screen brighter or dimmer. And think about what these are. So the first one is settings. That gear icon is key because most apps can be configured. And you yourself, if you're not that comfortable with tech, you might not want to monkey around with the settings, but it's good for other people to know. And they can fine tune it so it works just for you. And then we have the symbols for Wi-Fi. The big A, little a is often how you can change the font size or type. And then there's usually some way to get help it'll send you to a website or give you a number to call or something. So really, when you see a new screen, before you freeze or you go to somebody for help, search around or tap different places and see if some icons show up that you hadn't thought to look for. And those are just a few. So tech tip number 2, we're going to talk about turning your speech into text. And this can be extremely helpful. So you can speak instead of typing. So think about situations when it might be hard for you to type. Maybe you have arthritis or some dexterity issues, or your broken arm. Maybe you have low vision or visual perceptual problems. Maybe the device is so small, it's hard to type because you can't, it's just the keyboard is tiny. You might have some spelling issues, or it might just be too slow. So you can always speak instead of typing. Whenever there's a cursor blinking, you can always speak on all devices, and on all current devices, I should say. Any smartphone, any tablet, any computer that has a microphone attached. Some older desktops might not, but most of them do these days. And you can do emailing, you can be on social media, you can type into a Google document, which is very much like Microsoft Word. You can search online. You can do all those things by, when you see that blinking dot, you can click on an image of a microphone and speak.
See how that works.
So that's extremely helpful for people. So on mobile phones and tablets, if you've noticed, whenever you go to type something, a keyboard opens up. There's an on-screen keyboard, also on some laptops. And on that keyboard, you're going to see an image of a microphone. One key is the microphone. And that's how you do it. You just might never have noticed it, but it's there. The first time you might have to accept a permission to enable it or something, or you might have to turn it on in settings, but it's there. And so all devices can turn your speech into text. And there are quicker ways to do it too. If you're on Windows, Apple's, or Chrome on your computers, there are these shortcuts that you can take. And so I'm not going to go through every detail. I just want you to know. If you're into Google Docs, I really like using the Google apps because they're free. And a lot of people are more comfortable sticking with Microsoft, but Microsoft is really different than it used to be. And so sometimes it's just easier to switch from Microsoft to Google if you just are looking to sort of start fresh and get organized and be able to share documents. I mean, I know I turned my parents, I grew up with Microsoft products and I use Google all the time now. My parents went all Google. But also Microsoft is good. And as long as you're using Microsoft 365 so that it's updated in the cloud, it's not having everything just saved on your computer. I think they're even phasing that out maybe. But if you're in Google Docs, if you click on the toolbar and then you scroll down, there's something called voice typing. It's just included in Google Docs. And if you're using Microsoft Word, a Word version that's online, it's there. If you look up at the top, there's a button that says dictate. So it's included. You don't have to pay anything extra. The key is just to think to use it.
Where does the text go?
Wherever you want to type. So you just have the cursor. You just use your mouse or your finger, whatever. Wherever you put the cursor where you'd start typing, it would go there.
I type there's some place for me to say I wanted to go to email.
Oh, you have to be in your email. So you'd be in your email, or you'd be on Facebook, or you'd be in a Google Doc, and then you'd find the microphone, and wherever you would type, you would talk. So it gets a little confusing because it's different depending on what you're doing. If you're using email, then what you'll have to do is you'll have to use the microphone feature that comes with your device. So it depends if you're on a phone or a computer. So it gets a little complicated, but just know that it is possible. And so if there's someone around that can guide you, or I'm going to give you some resources toward the end to help with all that. And then other tools to help with, I think this one is this is in the wrong order, but this slide is for, did I skip? Yeah, okay, all right. So next we're going to talk about captions. Tech tip number 3 is all about captioning. So if you're somebody that benefits from having the captions on when you watch TV, because it helps you to understand better, this would be perfect for you. Or you're somebody that doesn't want to listen to things out loud, you would rather read. So there are options for using captions all over the place that you might not be aware of. If you're in conversation with people and it's hard for you to hear, hopefully you have hearing aids and you've maximized your hearing ability, but still it might be really hard to hear. Maybe you're out at a restaurant and it's noisy, or you don't have hearing aids. I mean, there are all kinds of scenarios. Seeing the words live can help. And now there's been just a revolution in the ability to automatically have people's words converted into text. So that helps in conversations too. And so I put my 3 favorite apps here. They're all for either Android or iPhones. And you can download these apps and then they show you in big print what people say as they speak. So that's really amazing. It's not perfect. And of course, it all depends on the clarity of the person's speech who's talking. But in some situations, it works really well. And then also, just as an aside, I wanted to put that there's this symbol that people may see in different places. And that means that there's hearing assistive technology available. And so sometimes there are audio loops in rooms that you can take advantage of if you're wearing a hearing aid, or sometimes there are listening devices that the organization or community might have that you can wear so that you can hear better and better participate. Captioning is included on Zoom. That reminds me, hopefully it's been enabled in this meeting. If not, everybody should know that you can have captioning enabled. And then if you would like to see the words as I type them, you should just be able to click on the CC at the bottom. It's a little, let's see.
Yes, that works.
Do you see the CC?
Yes.
Okay, so it's enabled, and if anybody that's on Zoom right now would like to see the words as I say them, click on the closed captioning. If you don't see it, you might see the word more, and you can find it. And so you could then see it go along. And in fact, yeah, so it's included even in the free Zoom accounts now, which is really nice. Also, on many TVs these days, you can go into the settings and enable from the remote, you can turn on closed captioning. And even if you watch YouTube videos or something, most of them are closed captioned. If you're use the Chrome browser when you're on your computer, it's already included that all audio can be captioned. And this is just free and included, and you can just go into the settings and turn that on. So if you're watching, if somebody sends you a home video that you want to watch and you're playing it on your computer, you can see the words as they're said. So that's pretty cool. An example, Google Meet is very much like Zoom, and their closed captioning is included. All right, tech tip number 4 is simplify the view. And so I'm sort of rattling things off, but I do have links on most of these slides that will take you to videos or more information about what I'm talking about. So sometimes when we're looking on the screen, it's just a mess. Like if you go to CNN.com or something and you're trying to read an article, ads pop up and things are small, or maybe it's too bright. And so there are a lot of ways that we can customize the view. Sometimes people have low vision, you know, sometimes people are prone to seizures with the flicker of the computer screen, or sometimes there's just a sensitivity to light and you get migraines, or it's distracted, or the print is too small. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why that can be bad. So there's a reader view that is included that's built into Safari, Edge, and Firefox, which are 3 very common browsers. And you'll see not all websites can be in reader view, but there's a big push toward website accessibility. And nowadays, if you ever see, you know, these 4 lines across the top, like that black image, when you're trying to read an article, click on that. And it's pretty amazing. The ads disappear and you can customize the view. If you're in Chrome, that's not, it's coming, but it's sort of a experimental phase now with that. So there's a Google Chrome extension, which is getting a little bit too advanced that can do it, but soon that will become available. And so here's an example of an article on CNN. I'm in the Edge browser, which is the default browser for Microsoft computers. And so I clicked on an article, and then you can see that it's still pretty busy over on the right. It's hard to read it. But then I go in on the top of Edge, you can see this icon that's actually for, oops, that has got moved over. It's for the immersive reader. And so you can see up at the top, it's right there. It's included. It's under the view menu. So if you don't see it, you might have to dig around to find it. But that article is so much easier to read now. I could pick the color of the background. I could change the size of the font, you know, and just read one thing at a time. And it really, really helps. And, you know, if you download the slides, you can see a whole tutorial about how to use Immersive Reader in Edge. It's really a fantastic tool for writing and for reading, for all kinds of things, really. All right, tech tip number 5, listen to text read aloud. So very often it's hard to read something and you'd rather listen. So when, you know, it's free on all current smartphones, tablets, and computers. You just have to know how to do it. So, you know, print might be too small, you have these visual problems, reading problems, or you just prefer to listen rather than read with your eyes. I work with people of all ages, and I work with a lot of students who have dyslexia, you know, a reading disability, or ADHD, an attention management challenge. But there are a lot of seniors that have all, you know, different challenges that, or just preferences to listen. And so here's an example of how you would get to it on an iPhone. There are built-in settings that you just have to set up. It's in the accessibility settings. And so all iPhones, you can set it up so that you either swipe with 2 fingers from the top and then you listen, or you touch something and you move little blue balls around and then you press speak. Instead of cut or paste or copy, there's an option that says speak, and then you can listen to it read out loud. And here are the step-by-step instructions if you're going to try to do that. And on Android phones, there's an option in accessibility called select to speak. And so I have how to do that too. So you just tap play and it will read it out loud. So for today, I just want you to know it's possible. And then you'll, you know, because we just have an hour to go through all of this. And in Google Chrome, I would go to the Chrome Web Store. And then I really like this read and write extension by Text Help. So when I'm working a lot with high school students, college students, working adults, this is a tremendously powerful extension. It's something that adds functionality to the Chrome browser, and it will read out loud for you. It'll change the view for you. Anything online, it'll help with. And then if you're on a Mac, you go into the settings on your Mac computer, and this is how you can set up so that if you select the text you want and you press Option and Escape, and it starts reading aloud. So you could be doing that while reading your emails or whatever you want. And then there are apps, if you want to listen to books read aloud. I just wanted to, there are a lot of different ways to do that, but one way that's free, I'm trying to highlight free things that are relatively easy to use. And so I set up a lot of people with the Libby app. Both of my parents use this constantly now because some books are just too heavy to hold. My mom has terrible arthritis and she loves to read and she gets these thick, large print books and she hurt her wrist. And so she has an iPad, they both have iPads, and downloaded the Libby app for free. We connected it to the library, Montgomery County Public Libraries, with their account. And then there are so many books that they can just put on their iPad, and then they can choose to download books that are audio or books that they'll enlarge the print and read with their eyes. So these days, a lot of learning specialists say you read with your ears or you read with your eyes, or you do both at once. And doing both at once sometimes is really the best to remember things. And I just happened, I might have mentioned for the last 6 years, I've been doing free webinars. And if you're interested in this whole reading, tech for reading, on July 19th, I'm hosting my next webinar that's all free, no gimmicks, is filled with really helpful information. And you can sign up at theymaynotknow.com. And so that's the URL that I got because I see so many people that after I spend a session or two setting up their tech, they're like, oh, why didn't anyone show me this before? It makes life so much better. And I say, well, they may not know. So that's why I got that site, because it's hard to keep up with all this stuff. And that's all I do is keep up with tech that can improve people's lives. So you just go to theymaynotknow.com. And if you forget, you can always go to my website, innovativespeech.com, which is on this one-page handout, and it says webinars or upcoming events. I've been updating my website. I don't remember what I called it, but or online learning, something like that. And then you can register through my website also. Tech tip number 6 is to embrace the cloud. And this is probably where I get the most resistance from seniors. Because there are, we're scared to put things in the cloud because we hear about all these terrible things and hacks, and it is important to, change passwords. And I mean, I just assume all my information is out there, and I have a company that checks my identity. So you have to be sort of smart about it. But I think that everything has gone into the cloud now. You're sort of forced into it for a lot of accounts and portals and things. So I think we need to embrace the cloud and then figure out best practices for using it to make life easier while staying safe. And so a lot of people are keeping, and it depends on your life how much you have to get into this, but if you think about it, if you have family or friends that help you with driving, or you have family or friends that do your grocery shopping, or you need to coordinate support for yourself or somebody else, or you need access to emergency documents when you end up in the hospital. If you have everything at home on paper, often you might not have it when you really need it. And so I think it's important to set up online systems that will be updated on your devices. So wherever you are, everything's on my phone. I can get to any document that I need. I'm paperless at this point. I don't have any paper files that I keep. And so when I go, I'm going next week to help my daughter that has 10-month-old twins. And so she needs me, and I'm just going to keep my practice going right there because I can just bring my computer and my phone. It's like I have my whole file cabinet with me, and I can, everything is online. Or if my computer breaks, I'd get another computer. I don't have to worry about losing anything anymore, or losing all my contacts, or losing all my photos. It's there. So it really eases a lot of stress. So, there's Google Drive, there's the Microsoft 365 has OneDrive, or Apple has the iCloud Drive. And there are pros and cons of these different ones. There's also Dropbox, and so depending on what devices you have and what you need to do, you might choose some different things. So I use pretty much all of them because I need to know how. And so sometimes that's a problem for me because I forget where I stored something. But I have a course all about Google, and I set up a lot of people with Google. And it's nice because you have folders and you can color code folders, and you can have documents put in links in more than one folder in case you forget how you organize things. And it's a very powerful search system. I also like an app called Google Keep, excuse me. And that's where my parents, you just have, it's free. So you can go to keep.google.com on a computer, or you can download the Google Keep app on your tablet or phone, and you sign in with a Google account, and you can just have lists and check things off when you're done. You can communicate and share really easily with other people. If you want to keep a grocery list, or questions to ask a doctor, or URLs that you frequently go to, website links. So I do have a course on my website all about Google. It's a 5-week course because it's a great way to get organized. Tech tip number 7 is connect with video calls. And I'll get through these and we'll have time for questions, I'm sure. I think it's really important to connect with video calls. It's if you can't see somebody in person, that means a lot to you, family or friends or doctors. Video calls are the next best way to keep in touch. And actually one of this was the topic of the last webinar that I did. And what I'm in the process of doing is making my past webinars available for like $17. Because I've been doing this free for 6 years, and I've got to start. I spent so much time on this. I'm going to try to monetize it a little bit, but I'm never going to charge for my webinars because really I want to get the word out there. And anybody who watches a webinar or registers can watch. It's recorded and available for free for at least 2 weeks or more. So I try to make it easy for everybody. But there are a lot of video call options. So Zoom is one of them. We're experiencing that today. A lot of people have heard about FaceTime that you can do on an iPhone. Google Meet is something that's underrated. I mean, it is really good. And it used to be called, well, Google Meet is like Zoom, so it's a meeting platform. But now it's also just like FaceTime for one-to-one conversation or small groups. And a lot of times Android, it's hard for iPhone users to talk to Android phone users because Android phone users until recently couldn't use FaceTime. And so now they can with a link, but it's a little more complicated. Everybody can use Google Meet. You just download the Google Meet app on any device, any computer, any smartphone, any tablet. And it's just like, you can have a video call. And so it does has a lot of other features too. And then Skype, I haven't used Skype in forever, but I think there are still people who use Skype. So these are my parents in the middle. And I've really gotten into FaceTime because my parents both have pretty bad hearing, and they wear hearing aids. And so I've connected their phones to their hearing aids so that the sound goes straight into their ears, which is so helpful. And then they regularly want to FaceTime with their great-grandchildren. And so it's nice. I just have to make sure they're far enough away from each other so there's no interference. So my mom goes in one room in their apartment, my dad goes in another room in their apartment, and they FaceTime with the girls or with my kids. And you can have group FaceTime, which is great. That's a relatively new feature. But they really feel like they get to see the kids growing up. But FaceTime, it gets complicated sometimes with FaceTime and Zoom, and it's not so easy if you're a senior and you don't have, somebody more in the know to help you set it up. So sometimes you're stuck. And these are simpler options if you're trying to help somebody else or yourself. And there's something called the GrandPad. Some of these get a little pricey. The only one that's not pricey is Amazon's Echo Show. So the GrandPad and Sociavi and ViewClicks all use special tablets where it's set up, you have a family administrator, somebody's in charge, and they set up all the contacts so that it's a safe zone. And then you can have video calls back and forth, and some have some extra features. On screen is something new, and that uses the TV. And so that's a really big screen, and it's just a little device that goes, that comes with a camera and some things. And you need somebody to set it up, but then once it's set up, it's extremely easy to use. Somebody can be watching TV or not. And when another person calls that person, it either turns on the TV to on screen, or it pauses what they were watching on the TV and the video shows up. And the person using it doesn't have to do anything. So that's a pretty amazing option for people that are really isolated. I really like the Echo Show drop-in. The biggest hindrance to that usually is people are concerned about privacy and security. But there are ways that you can go into the settings and maximize privacy and security. And you can close the lens to it when you want to. But we use that every single night with my mother-in-law, who's in a memory support assisted living place. Every night at 7 o'clock, my husband calls her on, takes out his phone, opens up the Alexa app, and calls her Echo Show device, and he just appears. She doesn't have to touch anything or accept anything. It just happens. And she gets up. One thing she knows is every night at 7 o'clock, I mean, if he doesn't call by 7:05, it's a real problem. But she can also initiate the calls on that device.
Why don't you have WhatsApp on there?
She doesn't have a phone or a computer. Oh, I could have a lot more. Well, this is for people without a phone or a computer. I could have put WhatsApp on this. There are a lot of apps. I mean, there are probably 10 or 15 apps that really, I think Messenger now, Messenger, WhatsApp. Does anybody have another app that they like to use?
There's Signal.
Signal. Yeah, there are a lot of them, but WhatsApp is popular, especially for people that are international. That seems to be really popular. Tech tip number 8 is to use smart assistants. So this Alexa and Siri, I think that they can make life a whole lot easier. Both of my parents have a lot of mobility issues. My mom's in a motorized wheelchair. It's so nice to say, ALEXA, turn on the light, and my kids even use it, and they don't have mobility issues, just out of convenience. Maybe you have a question, you want to know who won a sports game or what the weather's going to be like. Or if you connect your calendar to it, you can figure out when your next doctor's appointment is. There are a lot of things that you can do with it. You can listen to music, you can set alarms. And so in terms of, sometimes it's a nice activity with other people to stay engaged. You could play Jeopardy. And there are books out there about all the different things that you can do with it. So that, the Echo Dot, there's the Google Home, there's Siri on the iPhone. There are a lot of ways to use smart assistants. And then tech tip number 9 is keep exercising your brain, right? We want to stay sharp. If you want to stay connected with other people, you want to stay as engaged as you can be. And so I put some links in here for people, and a lot of what I do is try to figure out somebody's cognitive level and communication capabilities to pick the right kinds of cognitively stimulating activities, because you might try Lumosity or Elevate. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these. And so to find the one that's really a good fit for you and your tolerance for frustration and what you want to improve, word retrieval, memory, because I'm a speech pathologist, this is sort of what I've been doing for a long time. So a lot of the tools that I use with students are appropriate for adults and vice versa. So a lot of, everything that I'm showing you today, I also use with kids. It's just the approach sometimes is a little bit different, but I like Lumosity. Some people say that these cognitive, exercises don't affect the real world. They only help if there's progress, it's only progress made in a particular task. A lot of other people absolutely feel it strengthens their brain and it sharpens their thinking and it carries over into real life. So I set up people and configure it for people and let them decide how they feel about it. And then you have to think about opportunity cost. You know, if you're doing this, what aren't you doing? There are a lot of people that aren't really exercising their brain much at all. They're just watching TV all day or something. And so when they start engaging with these different apps, I've seen remarkable progress. And so, you know, there's MindMate. There's a MindMate app, which is really good. There's a whole site by AARP that has games. And again, I've links to all of this. And then just for something to do, either with other people or by yourself, Google has this amazing site, Arts and Culture. I don't know if anyone's looked at that. It's unbelievably great. A lot of activity directors in senior living communities use this to come up with activities. So you can have virtual museum exhibits, you can pick all kinds of things. So I just grabbed 2 pictures, the Museum of Modern Art and street art. You can see under street art, there's 7,130 items just under that. And then this has a whole bunch of games too, pages and pages of them, and you can just really have fun exploring this. And tech tip number 10 is to keep learning, have fun, and explore. And so I think that, you know, I've shown you a whole bunch of things, and then the key is just to pick one thing I showed you, one thing to learn at a time that matters to you. What's going to make your life better? You don't have to become an expert at everything. And then I think it's really impactful if you find a tech buddy, somebody, a friend, a family member, somebody that you can learn with and explore and practice with, and, you know, or small groups. You know, it's also really essential that you have somebody to go to when you're stuck, because it could be just a little thing that you don't think to tap, you know, and then you're stuck. So it's, you know, I'm really trying to form communities of people that learn this together. I think that's the best way to do it. There are lots of videos out there. I'm going to link to a few in a couple slides that you can watch together and then pause and then try something, you know, and just go through that. Writing down some key steps to remember, and then practice, and join a class, different classes. So this is one of my favorite YouTube channels I link to. His name is Rich Bolin. He's fantastic. And he has, it's only good though if you have an iPhone or an iPad, because all of his videos are for users of iPhones and iPads. And he's actually going to be joining me in August. The webinar is going to be a panel of experts on how to teach seniors to use technology. So it's strategies, and he's going to share his, I have really great experts coming. So I'm excited about that. It's not on my website yet though, you can't register for it yet. But his, you know, he has, I don't know, 30 different videos or something that you can watch and pause and then try them. And then there are lots of online groups and classes. Senior Planet is in this area. One of its initial locations was in Montgomery County. And they have a lot of funding from Montgomery County, and they have online classes now and in-person classes at some senior centers. So, and it's free. Most of what I'm showing you today is free, that I'm talking about in detail. Get Set Up is another organization, and both of these organizations have classes, not just for tech, but for socialization and exercise and cooking and all kinds of things. I've recently gotten to know Boomer M, and I'm really impressed with Boomer M. Sorry, I had changed something right before I came and it sort of upset some of these things. But the founder is extremely impressive, and this is a nonprofit. She's out of New York, and I think she's going to be one of the experts that joins that webinar too. And then there's Cyber Seniors, and that's a connecting generations approach. So they have students teaching classes live and recorded. You can access them. And they have some great stuff on that. And then I have a Facebook group, which you're welcome to join. It's called IST Tech Savvy Solutions, totally free. I have over 1,000 members, and it's for people that want to become more tech savvy that are on Facebook. So you might have kids or adults, you know, anybody, it's for anybody. And And one of my projects that I just want to give a shout out to is that I think all seniors need access to a tech concierge that they can go to, that they trust, that knows about all these things and can help them, and knows about seniors. So I'm forming an elder tech advisor and teacher group in Montgomery County. The only hindrance is the money, because people don't want to pay for it. So I'm trying to get senior care communities and different people to join this, but nobody wants to pay. So I'm seeking grants and funding and sponsors, and I really think it could be a really good thing. But I do have elder tech advisors that's global, and that's been really successful. I'm about to have the 3rd cohort start. That's a train the trainer kind of approach. Here's information about reading. Here's about the expert panel. I help people individually. Here's information about me. And then this is the last slide. I just want to have you think about your next steps. What are you going to do? If you need help figuring out your next steps, I offer free 15-minute calls, no strings attached. I probably do 2 calls a day from people all over the world, Singapore, I mean, really Canada, England, and people go to this link on my website, let's chat. They pick I only schedule 3 days in advance because it populates into all my free time between clients. And so I call them and we talk, and I try to help them quickly think about what might help them. And then here's my contact information. So it is question time. Were there any questions anywhere?
Anybody in the room have any questions?
I know that was a lot of information.
No questions.
Yes, it was.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We have one here.
Are you also doing speech therapy?
You know,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
oh, am I also doing speech therapy? Not much. I'm not a Medicare provider. So I am not legally allowed to provide any Medicare reimbursable service to someone who has Medicare. And that person cannot choose to pay me privately. So sometimes I'll treat children and provide speech therapy, but no one who has Medicare. So that's why I've sort of turned into tech advising. And I don't do full evaluations. I help people with aphasia and dysarthria and apraxia pick the tech that can make a difference. And I help a lot of speech pathologists implement technology. Any other questions? Maybe you're all a little bit overwhelmed, but really just pick one thing. One thing.
We do have one question. How do you link an echo device in another house?
So what has to happen, how do you link an echo device in another house? So the only reason you have to do that is drop it, right? So each unit is a separate unit, right? So the person that you want to drop in on will have their own account, and they have to give permission. So it's a little bit tricky to set it up. There are a bunch of steps that you have to go through, but it always has to have the permission of the device that's going to be dropped in on. So you just have to go into settings and figure that out.
Well, if there are no more questions, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining us, both in person and virtually. And thank you so much to Joan for all the wonderful information to give us some tips and tricks for tech. And then also, if you would like to see this recording, we are recording this presentation. You can find it on our YouTube channel. The link is in the chat, and also our resource page. But if you've attended, I'll be sending an email with all that information as well. So I just wanted to remind everybody that our next event will be with our partners, Capital Senior Solutions, both Laura Quigley and Jan Brito, and they're going to discuss, that's August the 9th, and we'll be discussing downsizing made easy. But again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you to our guests. Have a wonderful day.
Nice to see you.
My
Good to
pleasure.
see you. Good, very good.
So did you?
Yeah, how about you?
Putting it in the meeting.
Yeah. I think I just missed it.
Where are
Sometimes I have
these?